Morning light spilled across the dining room like a staged photograph, clean, expensive, flawless. White porcelain plates were aligned with surgical precision. Silver cutlery reflected the glow from the tall windows. The smell of espresso and toasted bread filled the air, warm and comforting. On the surface, Amelia's life looked curated to perfection. She placed Ryan's coffee beside his plate, the way she always did. 5 years of marriage had turned small gestures into muscle memory. She was still smiling when she heard his footsteps descending the staircase, until she saw his face. Something was wrong. Ryan looked nothing like the calm, controlled man she knew. His hair was messy, his cheeks flushed, his breathing shallow. One cuff of his crisp white shirt hung open, bare wrist exposed. "Honey?" Amelia asked gently. "What's wrong?" Ryan didn't answer. His eyes darted around the room like he was searching for something, or someone. Then his gaze snapped to her. "My watch," he said sharply. "Where did you put it?" Amelia blinked. "Your Rolex? It should be in the watch winder." "That's where you always keep it." "It's gone." His voice rose. "I checked everywhere. The box is there. The watch isn't." Her stomach tightened. That watch wasn't just expensive, it was priceless to Ryan. But his reaction felt excessive. Panicked. Almost desperate. "Maybe you took it off last night," Amelia said carefully. "We can look again." "I didn't forget," Ryan snapped, rubbing his face. "I have a major meeting today. Appearances matter." Then, suddenly, his eyes shifted past her. "Maria." The housekeeper stood quietly by the kitchen island, wiping the marble surface like she had every morning for the past decade. She froze under Ryan's stare. "Maria," he barked. "Did you touch my watch?" Her hands began to shake. "No, sir. I never touch your things." Ryan stepped closer, his tone icy. "You're the only one besides my wife who goes into our bedroom." "That doesn't mean," Amelia began. Ryan cut her off. "If it's missing, someone took it." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "I swear, sir. I would never." "Enough," Ryan said. "I'm checking your room." Amelia's heart dropped. "Ryan, stop. This is insane." He didn't listen. Maria's small room behind the kitchen was spotless, simple furniture, family photos taped to the wall, a quiet dignity that now felt violated as Ryan tore through her belongings. Clothes flew onto the floor. Drawers were emptied. The air grew thick with humiliation. Then Ryan froze. He reached under the bed and pulled out a dark green velvet box. Amelia felt her breath leave her body. "That's mine," Ryan said triumphantly. "Recognize it?" He opened it. Empty. He turned on Maria like a predator. "Where's the watch?" Maria collapsed to her knees, sobbing. "I don't know how that got there." "I swear." Ryan's jaw clenched. "Pack your things. You're done here." Amelia stood frozen as 10 years of loyalty were erased in 15 minutes. As Maria was escorted out through the back gate, she leaned close to Amelia, her voice barely audible. "Ma'am, be careful," she whispered. "He is not who you think he is." Then, when Ryan turned away for a moment, Maria pressed something cold into Amelia's hand. A cracked burner phone. "Listen to it," she whispered urgently. "Before it's too late." Ryan locked the gate behind her with a loud metallic click. Amelia smiled when he turned back, because she had to. But against her spine, the phone burned like a warning. The house felt different once Ryan left. Not quiet, hollow. Amelia sat on the edge of their bed, staring at the object in her hand. The cracked burner phone looked obscene against the silk sheets and designer pillows, like it didn't belong in this world of curated luxury. Its screen was shattered, held together with a yellowed rubber band. One bar of battery blinked weakly. She hesitated. Part of her wanted to throw it away. Pretend Maria was just bitter. Pretend Ryan's outburst was stress. Pretend her life was still the oil painting she'd been living inside. But her hands moved anyway. The phone buzzed to life with a distorted logo. Amelia fumbled through the buttons, her fingers clumsy, her pulse loud in her ears. Menu. Media. Audio. One file. Voice_001. Timestamp, yesterday, 4:30 p.m. Her chest tightened. Yesterday afternoon, she had been at a charity luncheon. Ryan had said he was working late. She pressed play. At first, there was static. Fabric rustling. Footsteps. Then, Ryan's voice. Not the soft, affectionate tone he used with her. Not the polished voice he used in meetings. This voice was sharp. Rushed. Afraid. Yeah. I have the cash, Ryan said. No, not all of it. But enough to buy time. Amelia's blood ran cold. A pause. Someone else was on the line. I told you, I sold it, Ryan continued. The watch. Don't argue with me. I needed the 20 grand now. Her stomach dropped. Sold it. My wife won't know, he scoffed. She never checks anything. I'll handle it tomorrow. Amelia covered her mouth, barely breathing. I'll accuse the housekeeper, Ryan went on casually. She's old. No one will question it. I'll plant the box in her room. Simple. Tears blurred Amelia's vision. Relax, Ryan said, laughing softly. She trusts me completely. I just need time to get control of her assets. Assets. That word hit harder than any insult. I've already got paperwork drafted, Ryan continued. Power of attorney. She'll sign it. I'll say it's for taxes. She doesn't read fine print. Amelia felt something inside her fracture. And once the house is leveraged, Ryan added, voice dropping, I'm free. The recording ended abruptly. Silence crashed down around her. The watch wasn't stolen. Maria wasn't guilty. And Ryan wasn't careless. He was methodical. Amelia dropped the phone onto the bed as if it had burned her. Her reflection stared back at her from the mirrored closet door, same face, same body, but the woman inside was gone. The naive wife was dead. Her phone vibrated on the nightstand. Ryan calling. His smiling contact photo made her stomach churn. She inhaled slowly. If she didn't answer, he'd know something was wrong. If she did, she had to become someone else, someone who didn't know the truth. She picked up. Hi, honey, she said, forcing warmth into her voice. Ryan's tone was cheerful. Relaxed. Victorious. Just checking in. How are you feeling after this morning? I'm okay, Amelia replied. Just tired. Good, he said. Try to rest. Big day tomorrow. Tomorrow. After the call ended, Amelia sat motionless for a long time. Then she did something she had never done before. She hid the phone. Deep inside the bathroom vent, taped out of sight. That night, Ryan slept peacefully beside her, unaware that the woman staring at the ceiling had just declared a silent war. And if she made one wrong move, she wouldn't just lose her marriage. She'd lose her life. Amelia didn't sleep. She lay beside Ryan, counting his breaths, memorizing the rhythm of a man who had once felt like home and now felt like a loaded weapon. Every inhale reminded her of the recording. Every exhale whispered he lied to you for years. When morning came, she felt hollow, but sharp. Ryan woke cheerful, kissing her forehead as if nothing had changed. He moved through the house confidently, already dressed, already rehearsing lies. I'll be late tonight, he said casually, adjusting his tie. Big things in motion. Amelia nodded, playing her role. Drive safe. The moment his car disappeared through the gates, her knees nearly gave out. She locked the doors. All of them. Her hand shook as she replayed the recording again, forcing herself to listen not with emotion, but with strategy. He had debt. Dangerous debt. And men like that didn't wait politely. The doorbell rang. Amelia froze. She checked the monitor. A man stood at the gate, tall, broad, leather jacket, no delivery badge. He wasn't holding a package. Yes, she asked through the intercom. Documents for Mr. Ryan, the man said. His voice was rough. Urgent. My husband isn't home, Amelia replied carefully. You can leave them with security. The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. They said you could sign. Something in her chest screamed wrong. I don't sign business documents, Amelia said. Please leave. The man stepped closer to the gate, gripping the metal bars. Mrs. Amelia, he said softly. Tell your husband the deadline is today. Noon. Her blood turned to ice. I don't know what you're talking about. The man flicked open a lighter, letting the flame dance between his fingers. If he's late, he continued, the interest doubles. And collateral changes. Amelia's voice shook. Leave my property. He leaned in, eyes dark. We know where you live. Then he snapped the lighter shut and walked away like he'd just finished a friendly chat. Amelia collapsed against the gate the moment he disappeared. This wasn't theoretical anymore. Ryan hadn't just framed Maria. He hadn't just gambled their money. He had invited predators into her life. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. Working late. Don't wait up. Amelia laughed, a thin, broken sound. That afternoon, she moved fast. She searched Ryan's office. His drawers. His old laptop. Most things were wiped clean, but he had forgotten one thing. Location history. Her breath caught when she saw it. Yesterday, Ryan hadn't gone to his office. He'd gone to the Diamond District. Amelia stared at the screen, then grabbed her coat. She took an Uber, sunglasses low, mask tight. She found the shop marked in his timeline, quiet, discreet, expensive. Inside, the dealer smiled when she asked for a Rolex Daytona. We just got one yesterday, he said. Owner was desperate. Her heart pounded as he opened the box. The scratch on the clasp confirmed it. Ryan's watch. Sold by Ryan himself. Amelia took a photo, thanked the dealer, and walked out with her hands shaking. Two truths now sat heavy in her chest. Ryan was lying. And Ryan was running out of time. Which meant. So was she. Amelia barely made it home before her legs gave out. She locked the door behind her, slid down against it, and pressed her palm to her chest, trying to slow her breathing. The image of the watch, their watch, sitting comfortably in a stranger's display case kept replaying in her mind. Ryan hadn't lost anything. He had sacrificed it. And he had sacrificed Maria without hesitation. Her phone vibrated again. Ryan, running late. Don't forget to drink your milk tonight. Helps you sleep. Amelia stared at the message until her hands started shaking. Milk. Every night for weeks, Ryan had insisted. Warm. Sweet. For your nerves, he'd said. She thought it was love. Thought it was care. Now, suspicion crawled up her spine. She didn't drink it that night. Instead, she pretended. She poured the milk down the sink, rinsed the glass, and climbed into bed. Ryan came home near midnight, smelling faintly of cologne and stress. He kissed her temple, pleased. Sleep well, he whispered. Amelia kept her eyes closed until his breathing slowed. Then she moved. She retrieved the burner phone from the vent and checked the audio folder again. She'd missed something. There was a second file. Voice_002. Duration, 10 minutes. Her finger hovered before pressing play. Ryan's voice filled her ears again, but this time, he wasn't talking to a stranger. Aunt Carol, he said. I need you to calm down. Amelia's blood ran cold. I told you, she's clueless, Ryan continued. She'll sign. I just need her a little, foggy. A pause. Then another voice entered the recording, soft, familiar, terrifying. Make sure she stays that way, the woman said. Confused people don't ask questions. Amelia recognized the voice instantly. Aunt Carol. The woman who hugged her at holidays. The woman who called her like a daughter. Ryan laughed quietly. I've been crushing a bit into her drinks every night. Nothing obvious. Just enough to make her tired. Forgetful. Amelia ripped the earbud out. Her hands flew to her mouth as nausea surged. The dizziness. The headaches. The moments she'd forgotten simple things. It hadn't been stress. It had been intentional. She ran to the bathroom and vomited, gripping the sink as rage replaced fear. They weren't just stealing from her. They were preparing her. Her phone buzzed again, this time, the doorbell camera alert. Someone was at the gate. Amelia's heart slammed. She checked the monitor. The same man from earlier. This time, he wasn't smiling. She didn't answer. Instead, she recorded. Through the speaker, his voice carried clearly. Tell your husband tomorrow at noon is final. No excuses. He looked directly into the camera. And tell him, collateral can be people. He left. Amelia stood frozen long after the screen went dark. By morning, Ryan would expect her signature. By noon, those men would expect money. And if neither happened, she finally understood what Maria meant. Be careful. He is not who you think he is. Amelia wiped her face and stood taller. If Ryan thought she was still the same trusting wife, he was about to make the worst mistake of his life. Morning arrived wrapped in tension. Amelia moved through the house like she was underwater, slow, deliberate, hyper-aware. Every sound felt amplified. The hum of the refrigerator. The distant lawn equipment outside the gates. Even her own breathing sounded too loud. Ryan watched her closely. He sat at the dining table pretending to read the paper, but his eyes tracked her every move. She could feel it. The warmth she once mistook for attention now felt like surveillance. You're up early, he said lightly. I couldn't sleep, Amelia replied, rubbing her temples. My head feels strange again. Ryan's lips twitched, just slightly. Maybe you should see a doctor today, he said. After we handle some paperwork. Paperwork. The word landed like a loaded gun. Ryan stood and retrieved a brown envelope from his briefcase. He placed it carefully on the table, smoothing it as if it were sacred. These are from the tax office, he said. Routine stuff. Just signatures. Amelia sat across from him, heart pounding. She scanned the pages slowly, pretending confusion while her mind screamed. Power of attorney. Authorization to sell. Release of claims. This wasn't routine. This was surrender. Why does this say power to sell? Amelia asked softly. Ryan sighed, rehearsed patience dripping from his voice. Legal wording. You know how complicated this stuff is. He slid his Mont Blanc pen toward her. Just sign, Amy. I'll take care of everything. Her hand shook as she picked it up. If she refused outright, he might snap. If she signed, she was finished. She needed time. Ouch, Amelia suddenly gasped, clutching her stomach. The pen slipped from her fingers, clattering onto the table. She leaned forward sharply, knocking over her water glass. Liquid spilled across the documents. Amelia! Ryan barked, jumping up. I'm sorry, she moaned. The pain, it's sharp. Ryan grabbed the papers, blotting them aggressively with napkins. His eyes darted over the pages, checking the signature section. It's fine, he muttered. The last page is dry. He shoved it back toward her. Sign. Quickly. Amelia's fingers closed around the pen again. This time, she signed. But not the way he thought. She altered the loops in her name just enough to fail verification. Subtle. Invisible to him, but fatal to any bank clerk. Ryan exhaled in relief as he snatched the document. Good, he said. Go rest. He kissed her forehead and rushed out, clutching the envelope like a lottery ticket. Amelia sat perfectly still. The moment the door slammed shut, her fear transformed into focus. She stood, steady now. That night, Ryan returned in a celebratory mood, cupcakes, laughter, false affection. I took tomorrow off, he said smugly. Everything's lining up. Amelia smiled politely, hiding the storm inside her. While he showered, she slipped into the storage closet under the stairs. Behind dusty boxes, she found it, a rusted cookie tin. Inside, SIM cards. Voided checks. A black notebook. Ryan's handwriting. Dates. Losses. Names. And one final entry that made her blood run cold. Target, my wife's house. Exit plan ready. Amelia closed the book slowly. This wasn't desperation. It was premeditation. And tomorrow, when the bank rejected Ryan, he wouldn't panic quietly. He would come home furious. The house felt like it was holding its breath. Amelia sat at the dining table long after Ryan left, the black notebook open in front of her. Every line of his handwriting felt like a confession carved into stone. Dates. Numbers. Losses. Lies stacked neatly like receipts of betrayal. By noon, her phone buzzed. Once. Twice. Then again. Ryan calling. She didn't answer. Instead, she watched the security feed. 3 men stood outside the front gate. Big. Impatient. One of them held something metallic that glinted in the sun. The deadline had passed. Her phone rang again, this time a text. Ryan, where are you? Why isn't the bank answering me? Amelia typed calmly. Amelia, some men are outside the house. They say they know you. Across the city, Ryan's world collapsed. She could almost see it, the bank manager's tight smile, the rejection, the explanation about signature mismatch. The realization that his last move had failed. Minutes later, tires screeched in the driveway. Ryan didn't come through the front. He used the side entrance. The door slammed open so hard it rattled the walls. Amelia. His voice was unrecognizable, ragged, frantic, stripped of charm. She remained seated, composed, hands folded in front of her. Ryan stormed in, suit wrinkled, eyes wild. What did you do? He demanded. The documents, your signature. I signed, Amelia said evenly. You watched me. You altered it, he shouted. You sabotaged me. Outside, the banging at the gate grew louder. Ryan grabbed her arms. Those men will kill me. You understand that, right? Amelia looked up at him slowly. You plan to kill me. The words stunned him. For a moment, he froze, then laughed. So you know, he said softly. That actually makes this easier. He locked the front door and slipped the key into his pocket. I need that house, he continued, pacing. And if I don't get it, I'll take something else. He went into the kitchen and returned with a large carving knife. Amelia didn't scream. She reached under the table and tapped her phone. The lights went out. Darkness swallowed the room. What did you do? Ryan shouted, swinging blindly. A chair crashed. Glass shattered. Outside, voices shouted, angry, demanding. Ryan turned toward the noise, panic flashing across his face. They're here, he whispered. If they get in, we're both dead. Not both, Amelia said quietly. She moved. When Ryan's phone flashlight snapped on, the beam swept wildly across the room, too late. A blast of white powder exploded into his face. He screamed, dropping the knife. Amelia kicked it away and ran. Up the stairs. Into the bedroom. Bathroom door, locked. She grabbed the burner phone from the vent and dialed. "Help me," she whispered. "My husband is trying to kill me." The bedroom door splintered behind her. Then, a new sound. Glass breaking. Not Ryan. The men. Ryan's voice cracked with terror. "Take her. She has the deed." Even now, he tried to trade her life. Amelia backed into the bathroom, clutching a hair straightener glowing hot. The door burst open. A man lunged. She clamped the straightener onto his hand. Screams filled the room. Sirens wailed in the distance. This time, they were real. Chaos erupted all at once. The house filled with shouting, men yelling, Ryan screaming, glass shattering as boots pounded through the back entrance. Amelia pressed herself into the corner of the bathroom, gripping the hair straightener like a weapon, her arms trembling but her eyes clear. She wasn't frozen anymore. She was focused. One of the men staggered back, clutching his burned hand, swearing violently. Another shoved past him, scanning the room with predatory calm. Behind them, Ryan stood in the doorway of the bedroom, white-faced, shaking, exposed. "There she is," Ryan shouted hoarsely. "She has the papers. Get them." That was the moment Amelia understood something with brutal clarity. Ryan wasn't afraid for her. He wasn't even afraid with her. He was afraid of losing. The second man lunged toward her. Amelia hurled the straightener and dove sideways as a knife slashed through the air where her head had been seconds earlier. She crashed into the bathtub, pain exploding across her shoulder. Her phone slipped from her hand, skidding across the wet tiles. "Grab her," someone barked. Ryan suddenly moved, not toward Amelia, but away. He bolted. Straight for the balcony. "Ryan," one of the men yelled. "Where the hell are you going?" "I'll get help." Ryan screamed back, vaulting over furniture. "I swear." "Liar. Always." The man closest to Amelia cursed and turned back to her. "Your husband's a coward," he snarled. "But you're still useful." Amelia's fingers closed around a bottle near the tub, industrial-strength cleaner. Without hesitation, she twisted the cap and flung the liquid upward. The man screamed as it splashed into his eyes. Amelia scrambled to her feet and ran. Down the hallway. Onto the balcony. Ryan was halfway over the railing, gripping the edge, legs dangling. "Help me," he cried when he saw her. "Please. Pull me up." For a heartbeat, she almost didn't recognize him. The man she had married, the confident provider, the charming husband, was gone. In his place was a desperate stranger clinging to metal, breath hitching in panic. Sirens wailed closer now. Red and blue lights flashed against the walls. "Amelia," Ryan begged. "I'll change. I swear. Just help me." She stepped closer. Slow. Controlled. "You framed an innocent woman," she said quietly. "You poisoned me. You planned my death." "I was desperate," he sobbed. "I didn't mean it." "You meant every step," Amelia replied. She bent down, not to help him, but to pick up his phone lying on the balcony floor. It rang. Aunt Carol calling. Amelia answered and put it on speaker. "Ryan, listen to me," Carol's frantic voice burst through. "The police are at my house. They know everything. You need to disappear, now." Ryan's face crumpled. His last ally. Gone. Amelia leaned closer so he could hear her clearly. "This is the end of the line, Ryan." He reached for her hand. She stepped back. "I'm done saving you." Inside the house, heavy boots thundered up the stairs. "Police! Don't move." Ryan lost his grip. He didn't fall far, but far enough to shatter the illusion he'd lived on. Moments later, officers swarmed the balcony, hauling him up in cuffs, his leg twisted, his dignity destroyed. Amelia stood in the doorway, wrapped in a blanket, shaking but upright. When an officer asked if she wanted to press charges, she didn't hesitate. "Yes," she said clearly. "For everything." Ryan looked at her one last time, eyes hollow. She didn't look back. The house no longer felt like a home. It felt like a crime scene, because it was. Yellow tape stretched across shattered doorframes. Officers moved in controlled patterns, documenting every broken chair, every overturned table, every drop of blood on the tile. Amelia sat on the edge of the sofa wrapped in a thermal blanket, answering questions with a steady voice that surprised even her. She didn't cry. That part of her was gone. An officer gently placed a clear evidence bag on the table in front of her. Inside was the cracked burner phone, still damp from the bathroom floor. "Is this yours, ma'am?" he asked. "It was given to me," Amelia replied. "By the housekeeper my husband framed." She unlocked the phone with shaking fingers and handed it back. "There are recordings on it. Everything he planned. Everything he admitted." The detective's expression hardened as he listened through headphones. "Ma'am," he said after a long pause, "this changes everything." They escorted Ryan past her in cuffs an hour later. He limped. His suit was torn. His face, once so composed, was swollen and pale. When he saw Amelia, hope flickered briefly in his eyes. "Tell them it was a misunderstanding," he pleaded. "Please. You know I'd never hurt you." Amelia stood. She reached into her pocket and placed the black notebook on the table between them. "Do you recognize this?" she asked calmly. Ryan froze. The detective flipped through the pages, gambling losses, debt tallies, asset plans, names. "Care to explain?" the detective asked. Ryan said nothing. The silence was louder than any confession. Later that night, after the house emptied and the lights dimmed, Amelia sat alone with a legal folder spread open on the dining table. Deeds. Bank statements. Transfer records. Evidence collected like armor. Her phone rang. A number she hadn't seen in years. "Aunt Carol." Amelia answered and put it on speaker without speaking. "You ungrateful girl," Carol hissed. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Amelia closed her eyes. "You used my husband," Amelia replied. "You helped him poison me." "You would have been fine," Carol snapped. "You had everything. You wouldn't have missed a little house." "A little house?" Amelia said softly. "It was my parents' legacy." Carol laughed bitterly. Ryan was weak. That was his only flaw. "No," Amelia said. "His flaw was thinking I was." She ended the call. The next morning, Amelia went to the bank, with her lawyer. The altered signature did exactly what she intended. The loan was void. The attempt was documented. The fraud report was filed. Ryan's accounts were frozen. His safety net vanished overnight. By afternoon, Amelia met Maria in a quiet cafe across town. The older woman looked exhausted, but alive. "I'm sorry," Amelia said immediately. "I should have believed you." Maria shook her head gently. "You did, in the end. That is what matters." Amelia slid an envelope across the table. "Cash. A lease agreement. A new start." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "Why are you helping me?" she whispered. "Because you saved my life," Amelia replied. As Amelia walked back to her car, the weight she'd carried for years began to lift, just slightly. Justice was moving. Slow. Methodical. Unstoppable. And Ryan had no idea how much more was coming. The news didn't break loudly. It spread quietly, through legal notices, whispered conversations, and one carefully filed court document that unraveled everything Ryan had built. fraud, attempted coercion, conspiracy to commit financial theft, poisoning. Amelia sat beside her attorney as the charges were read aloud. Each word felt surreal, like they belonged to someone else's life. But when she looked across the courtroom and saw Ryan at the defense table, smaller, hollowed out, stripped of confidence, she knew this was real. And permanent. Ryan avoided her eyes. Not because he felt shame. Because he knew. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. Not for her, but for him. Ryan had once been admired in his circle. Successful. Polished. Reliable. Men like him didn't implode quietly. Amelia didn't speak to the press. She didn't need to. The evidence spoke louder than any interview. The recordings were entered into discovery. The notebook was photographed and logged. The bank fraud attempt triggered internal audits. And then the real damage began. Ryan's business partners suspended him immediately. One by one, they issued public statements distancing themselves. His firm's website went dark within 48 hours. His name disappeared from the board listings he'd once bragged about. Inside the holding cell, Ryan finally cracked. He called Amelia from jail. She answered, but didn't speak. "You've made your point," he said hoarsely. "This has gone far enough." Silence. "They're calling me a monster," he continued. "My own lawyer says I'll never recover from this." Still nothing. "Please," Ryan whispered. "I loved you." Amelia finally spoke. "You loved what I owned," she said calmly. "And you lost it." She ended the call. That afternoon, Amelia met with her lawyer again, this time to finalize civil action. Lawsuits against Ryan. Against Aunt Carol. Against anyone who touched her inheritance. Every signature Amelia placed now felt different. These were hers. A week later, Aunt Carol was arrested at her home. Financial conspiracy. Evidence tampering. Accessory to attempted poisoning. She didn't look powerful in handcuffs. She looked old. Amelia watched the footage once, and then turned it off. She wasn't cruel. She was finished. Maria testified via deposition. Her words were simple, steady, devastating. Ryan had pressured her. Threatened her. Promised protection, then destroyed her life. The judge didn't interrupt. The jury didn't blink. Ryan's defense collapsed under its own weight. When sentencing was scheduled, Amelia was given the option to submit a victim impact statement. She declined. She didn't want closure from words. She wanted it from outcomes. The house, her parents' house, was finally quiet again. Repairs were underway. New locks. New cameras. New boundaries. Amelia stood in the empty living room one evening, sunlight pouring through the windows, and realized something unexpected. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't afraid. She was free. But freedom didn't mean forgetting. Because there was one final thing Ryan hadn't accounted for. One last asset he'd overlooked. And Amelia was ready to use it. The courtroom was quieter than Amelia expected. No gasps. No drama. Just the soft rustle of papers and the low murmur of legal language that would decide the rest of Ryan's life. She sat in the second row, hands folded, posture straight, watching a man who once ruled her world shrink into a defendant number. Ryan didn't look at her. He stared at the table like it might open up and swallow him. The judge reviewed the evidence with methodical precision: fraud, conspiracy, attempted poisoning, coercion. Each charge stacked neatly, like bricks sealing a wall Ryan would never climb again. When sentencing was announced, Ryan finally looked up. 8 years. No parole for the first 5. A sound escaped his throat, not quite a cry, not quite a word. Amelia didn't react. She had known the number before it was spoken. Because prison wasn't the move that would haunt him the longest. That part came later. Weeks passed. Life settled into a strange, peaceful rhythm. Contractors finished repairing the house. The locks were upgraded. The walls repainted. Every trace of violence erased, not to forget, but to reclaim. Then Amelia made her final appointment. Not with a lawyer. With a financial trustee. She slid a thin folder across the desk. Inside were documents Ryan never imagined she'd find, insurance policies taken out quietly over the years. Not on himself. On her. Are these valid? Amelia asked. The trustee adjusted his glasses and nodded slowly. Yes. Disturbingly thorough. And due to the conviction, the beneficiary is voided. Amelia inhaled. So they revert to the estate, she asked. Which you control, he confirmed. Ryan had insured her life for a fortune. Planning for her death. Now, that money belonged to her. But Amelia didn't take it for herself. She redirected it. Part went to Maria, enough to secure her future permanently. Part funded a legal aid foundation for women trapped in coercive marriages. Part paid for therapy, security, and peace. And one portion, one carefully structured trust, was reserved for Ryan. Every month, a small deposit would land in an account he could access only after release. Just enough to survive. Never enough to rebuild. Never enough to forget who controlled the terms. Ryan received the notice in prison. He read it 3 times before understanding. She hadn't destroyed him financially. She'd contained him. Ensured he would always live with the knowledge that his freedom, and his limits, were defined by the woman he tried to erase. That night, Amelia slept deeply for the first time in years. No pills. No fear. No fog. In the morning, she stood in the kitchen, sunlight warming the floor, and poured herself a glass of milk. She smiled, and poured it down the sink. Some habits didn't deserve survival. As she walked out onto the porch, phone in hand, a notification popped up. Court clerk, Aunt Carol has requested a meeting. Amelia's smile faded, not with fear, but with anticipation. Because prison had broken Ryan. But Carol? Carol still thought she had leverage. And Amelia was about to teach her the final lesson. Aunt Carol didn't look powerful anymore. She sat behind the glass in the visitation room wearing a dull gray uniform, her hair thinner, her posture stiff. But her eyes, those hadn't changed. They still carried the same sharp calculation Amelia remembered from family dinners and forced hugs. Amelia sat down slowly, placing her hands flat on the metal table. You asked to see me, she said calmly. Carol smiled thinly. I knew you'd come. I'm here to listen, Amelia replied. Not to negotiate. Carol scoffed. You always were dramatic. Amelia didn't react. Silence stretched between them, heavy and deliberate. Finally, Carol leaned forward. You think Ryan was the mastermind, she said softly. He wasn't. Amelia's gaze sharpened. I know. Carol blinked, momentarily thrown off. He was desperate, Carol continued. Weak men are easy to guide. All I did was help him see the opportunity. You poisoned me, Amelia said evenly. That's more than guidance. Carol waved a dismissive hand. You were never in danger. Just, slowed down. Amelia slid a folder across the table. Inside were medical reports. Toxicology results. Doctor statements. You miscalculated, Amelia said. Another month, and I would have had permanent damage. Carol's smile faltered. You always had too much, Carol muttered. That house. That inheritance. You didn't earn it. My parents died, Amelia said quietly. That's how I earned it. Carol's face hardened. Family money stays in the family. It did, Amelia replied. You just weren't entitled to it. Carol leaned back, studying Amelia more carefully now. You've changed, she said slowly. Yes, Amelia agreed. Because I survived you. Carol's eyes flickered with irritation, and then something else. Resentment. You want the truth? Carol said suddenly. Fine. She leaned forward again, lowering her voice. Ryan wasn't the first. Amelia's breath caught. Years ago, Carol continued, your father almost signed that house over to me. Trusted me. Same way you trusted Ryan. Amelia felt something crack inside her chest. He didn't, Amelia said. No, Carol admitted bitterly. Because your mother caught on. The room felt colder. She changed the will, Carol continued. Cut me out. Gave everything to you. Amelia stared at her. So this wasn't about Ryan, Amelia said slowly. It was about revenge. Carol smiled, sharp and unashamed. Correction, she said. It was about correction. Amelia stood. That's all I needed to hear. Carol's smile vanished. Wait. Amelia pressed the intercom button. I'm done, she said to the guard. As she walked away, Carol's voice followed her, suddenly frantic. You think you won? Carol shouted. But that house, your precious house, still carries my name. Amelia stopped. Turned. What do you mean? She asked calmly. Carol's lips curved again, smug despite the cuffs. There's an old clause, she said. Buried. Forgotten. If certain conditions are met, ownership can be contested. Amelia studied her for a long moment. Then she smiled. Thank you, Amelia said softly. For confirming something I already suspected. Carol frowned. What? That you're still lying. Amelia turned and walked out. Outside, the air felt lighter. Her phone buzzed. A message from her lawyer. Lawyer, we found the clause. It doesn't favor her, it indicts her. Amelia closed her eyes, relief washing through her. Carol hadn't protected herself. She'd exposed herself. And the law was about to finish what Amelia started. The document was older than Amelia remembered. Yellowed pages. Heavy legal language. Typed on a machine that no longer existed. It sat between Amelia and her lawyer like a relic, one that had waited decades for the right moment to speak. This is the clause Carol was referring to, her lawyer said, tapping the page. But she misunderstood it. Or chose to. Amelia leaned forward, reading carefully. The clause didn't grant ownership. It imposed conditions. A protective measure her mother had added after sensing something was wrong, long before Amelia ever suspected betrayal. It stated clearly that any family member who attempted to coerce, deceive, or manipulate the heir into transferring ownership would permanently forfeit any claim, present or future, and be subject to civil penalties. Amelia felt tears sting her eyes, not from sadness, but from awe. Her mother had known. She protected you, the lawyer said gently. Even after she was gone. Within 48 hours, the motion was filed. Carol's attempt to weaponize the clause backfired spectacularly. Instead of opening a path to contest ownership, it triggered a separate investigation into historic financial interference, tying together decades of subtle manipulation, pressure campaigns, and misappropriated funds. Patterns emerged. Old emails. Witness statements. Paper trails Carol never imagined anyone would revisit. By the end of the week, new charges were added. Carol's attorney requested a plea deal. It was denied. Amelia attended the hearing, not because she had to, but because she chose to. Carol looked smaller than ever at the defense table. Not defiant. Not smug. Just tired. When asked if she wished to address the court, Carol stood slowly. She didn't look at the judge. She looked at Amelia. I did what I thought was right, Carol said, her voice thin. Family should stay in the family. Amelia stood when invited. Family doesn't poison, she said calmly. It doesn't manipulate. And it doesn't steal from the dead. The courtroom was silent. The ruling was swift. Carol was sentenced to additional years and ordered to repay damages, financial and punitive. Any remaining claims were dissolved permanently. No appeals. No loopholes. When it was over, Amelia walked out of the courthouse into warm afternoon light, breathing deeply like someone who had just surfaced from deep water. That night, she returned home alone. She walked through each room slowly, not inspecting, not guarding, just existing. The house no longer felt haunted by secrets. It felt like a place that could finally hold peace. She stopped in her parents' old bedroom and opened the window. Fresh air poured in. Amelia took out her phone and deleted the last audio file from the burner phone. She didn't need it anymore. Some evidence belonged to the past. In the weeks that followed, Amelia sold nothing. She kept the house. But she changed its purpose. Part became a retreat space, quiet, safe, discreet, for women leaving dangerous situations. No publicity. No grand announcements. Just doors that locked properly and people who listened. On the first night it opened, Amelia sat on the porch as lights turned on inside, soft, warm, hopeful. She wasn't rebuilding a life. She was redefining one. And for the first time since everything began, Amelia felt something unfamiliar but welcome settle in her chest. Peace. The letter arrived without warning. No return address. No stamp Amelia recognized. Just her name written carefully on the front, in handwriting she hadn't seen in months, but would never forget. Ryan's. Amelia didn't open it right away. She set it on the kitchen counter and made tea. Watched the steam rise. Let the moment stretch. She had learned the hard way that urgency was how people like Ryan controlled others. When she finally broke the seal, she sat down. The paper was thin. Folded once. No theatrics. Amelia. I don't expect forgiveness. I'm not asking for it. She paused, surprised already. Prison has a way of stripping lies down to their bones. There's nothing heroic here, just time and silence and the echo of every decision I made. Her jaw tightened. I won't insult you by blaming fear or debt. I chose shortcuts. I chose myself. And when the consequences came, I tried to trade you for my escape. The words landed heavy, but honest. This isn't an apology letter. It's an admission. Amelia exhaled slowly. There's something you don't know. Something I kept because I thought it gave me leverage. It doesn't anymore. Her pulse quickened. The night before Maria confronted me, I transferred a separate account. Not to hide it, but because I panicked. The account isn't in my name. It never was. It's in yours. Amelia sat upright. I convinced myself you'd never find it. That if everything collapsed, it would stay buried. I was wrong about a lot of things. She flipped the page. The funds came from years of skimming. Illegal. Dirty. If you claim them, they become yours, and the law will notice. If you don't, they'll eventually trace back to me anyway. A trap. Or a confession. I don't get to ask you what to do. I lost that right. I just couldn't let the truth die with me. Ryan. The letter slipped from her fingers. For a long time, Amelia didn't move. The money wasn't freedom. It was risk. Attention. Another thread tying her to a man she was done untangling from. That afternoon, she met her lawyer. They reviewed the account details carefully. The money existed. Substantial. Enough to change lives. Legally, the lawyer said, you have two options. Claim it and disclose everything. Or report it and walk away. Amelia stared out the window. For years, people had taken from her, slowly, quietly, assuming she wouldn't notice or wouldn't fight. Now the choice was hers. That night, she walked through the retreat house. One woman sat on the couch reading. Another slept peacefully upstairs. Safety, built piece by piece. Amelia understood something then. She didn't need Ryan's money. But she could use his truth. The next morning, she made her decision. Not out of anger. Not out of revenge. But out of clarity. Amelia stood at the bank as the doors opened, sunlight spilling across polished floors. She didn't feel nervous. She felt certain. The manager escorted her into a private office, files already prepared. Her lawyer joined by video call, silent but attentive. "I'm here to report an account," Amelia said calmly. "And to transfer full cooperation to the authorities." The manager nodded. "We've reviewed the information you sent. This will trigger an investigation." "That's fine," Amelia replied. "I want a clean record. I don't want it touched." Ryan's final secret died there, not with drama, but with procedure. By afternoon, the funds were frozen, flagged, and folded into the larger case against him. No benefit to Amelia. No lingering tie. No future leverage. Just an end. A week later, Amelia received confirmation her cooperation had closed the final loophole. Ryan's sentence was extended. The trust he'd believed would haunt her now vanished into restitution. She felt nothing. And that, more than anything, told her she had healed. Life moved forward, not loudly, but steadily. The retreat house filled gradually. Women came and went. Some stayed for days, others for months. Amelia didn't ask for their stories unless they wanted to share. Safety didn't require explanations. One evening, Maria returned, this time as a volunteer. "You turned pain into purpose," Maria said quietly. Amelia smiled. "I just made sure it didn't win." On the anniversary of her parents' passing, Amelia lit 2 candles in the living room. The house was still. Whole. She whispered thank you, not to fate, but to the version of herself that learned to listen when something felt wrong. Later that night, she opened her laptop and typed a single sentence into a new document. "This house is no longer a prize. It's a promise." She saved it. That was enough. Months later, a letter arrived from the corrections department. Ryan had enrolled in multiple programs. Early release was possible, years from now, not soon. Amelia read the notice once and filed it away. His future no longer intersected with hers. On a quiet morning, Amelia stood on the porch, coffee warming her hands. The neighborhood was peaceful. Ordinary. Extraordinary, in its own way. She wasn't the woman who needed proof anymore. She wasn't the woman who needed revenge. She was the woman who chose clarity, boundaries, and peace, and held them without apology. The house behind her stood strong. Not because it had survived betrayal, but because it had outgrown it. And for the first time in a very long while, Amelia smiled without looking over her shoulder. The shadow had ended.